Hey, before you do anything else, I need you to look at something with me. That parking lot right there. The one that looks completely ordinary. The kind you drive past every single day without a second thought. Look closer. See that RV in the back corner? The one parked a little away from everything else? There's a woman inside that vehicle right now who woke up at 4:30 this morning, drove to a truck stop to shower, put on her scrubs, went to the hospital, did a full 12-hour nursing shift. And tonight she came back here. Not to a house, not to an apartment. Here, this parking lot. And here's the thing that should stop you cold. She is not alone. There are over 1 million Americans doing exactly what she's doing tonight. Working full-time jobs, paying their taxes, filing their W-2s, and coming home to a vehicle in a parking lot because they cannot afford rent in the country they are actively working to hold together. 1 million people. And you probably drove past 3 of them today and never knew. Now here's the question I want you to carry through this entire video, because we're about to count down the 7 truths about this crisis that most people will never hear, and every single one of them is going to hit harder than the last. If a full-time job in America is no longer enough to keep a roof over your head, what exactly is the promise of this country worth? Stay with me, because number 7 is going to introduce you to the kind of person living in those parking lots. And I guarantee it is not who you're picturing right now. Number 7, the person you walk past every day without knowing. Okay, real talk. When I say homeless, what image comes into your head? Be honest. Most people picture someone on a sidewalk, a shopping cart, visible, obvious, unavoidable suffering. Now delete that image completely, because it has nothing to do with the people we're talking about today. The new American homeless looks like your coworker, your neighbor, the woman behind you in the grocery store line who seems completely fine. She is a registered nurse. She parks her RV 2 blocks from the hospital because it's closer than the city she can no longer afford to live in. She walks in every morning at 6 a.m. and takes care of critically ill patients. Her colleagues have no idea. Her manager has no idea. She keeps her scrubs pressed, her hair neat, her face calm, because the second anyone finds out, she becomes a liability instead of a professional. He is an Amazon warehouse worker who sleeps in his truck in the employee overflow lot. He clocks 50 hours a week. He has direct deposit. He has a phone plan and a gym membership he uses for the showers. When people ask where he lives, he names a neighborhood nearby. Not a lie, exactly just a direction. She is a school teacher with a master's degree in education, grading papers at night under a clip-on LED light, telling her 2 kids that living in a camper is like a long camping trip. Because explaining the truth of what rent costs versus what a teacher earns in this country would require her to have a conversation she is not ready to have. Nearly 60% of the Americans currently living in RVs, trucks, campers, and vans are employed. 6 out of 10. Working, paying in, showing up, and hiding. They hide because shame is a powerful weapon, and somewhere along the way this country decided that where you sleep at night is a reflection of your character. So they perform normalcy. They press their clothes in gas station bathrooms. They charge their phones in the car. They show up every day with a smile and go home every night to a secret that weighs more than anything they own. Here's what I want you to hold on to from number 7. These are not strangers. These are people woven into the fabric of your daily life. Your nurses, your teachers, your delivery drivers, and they're invisible to you by design, by necessity, by survival. But stay right there, because number 6 is where this story gets personal. And I mean personally personal, because I'm going to show you the exact 3 steps, step by step, in plain language, that take a normal working person from a regular apartment to a parking lot. And the terrifying thing? Every single step makes complete logical sense in the moment it happens. Number 6, the 3 steps that turn an apartment into a memory. I'm going to walk you through something right now, and I want you to pay attention, because this is not a story about someone who made terrible decisions. This is a story about someone who made completely reasonable ones and ended up in a vehicle anyway. Step 1, the letter. It comes in the mail, or in an email, or slipped under the door. It's the lease renewal notice. You've been in this apartment 2, maybe 3 years. You've been a good tenant. You pay on time. You haven't caused problems. The notice says your rent is going up, not by $50, not by $100, by $350, $400, sometimes $500 a month. That's $4,800 to $6,000 a year that you do not have. And there's no negotiation. It's the market. The landlord has 17 other people who will pay it. You start searching. You call. You scroll. You drive to places that look affordable online and don't look that way in person. And slowly, over the course of a few weeks, you arrive at a realization that genuinely frightens you. In your city, for what you earn, there is nothing safe. Nothing close to your job. Nothing that the math supports. Step 2, the spreadsheet. So you build one. You sit down with your actual numbers, your take-home pay, your expenses, the cost of everything, and you try to find a way out of the trap. A 2-hour commute each way to a cheaper area costs you in gas, in car where in hours you will never get back, in childcare that eats whatever you saved. You start looking at other options. And then somebody in a Facebook group or a YouTube comment, maybe even one like this, mentions it. The RV. Step 3, the purchase. You find a used one. $7,500 on Facebook Marketplace. It's not perfect, but it runs. You drain your savings. Maybe you borrow from your mom, your sister, your oldest friend. You tell them, and yourself, that this is temporary. 6 months. 1 year maximum. Just until you get back on solid ground. 6 months pass. Then a year. Then 2. And here's why. Landlords now require first month, last month, and a full security deposit up front. Sometimes $4,000 to $6,000 on top of your existing bills. When you're living tight inside a vehicle, that target never gets closer. Every time you almost have enough, something breaks, the transmission, a medical bill, an emergency, and the clock resets. Temporary does not become permanent because people give up. It becomes permanent because the exit is padlocked from the outside. This is how it happens. Not through recklessness, not through addiction or failure or bad character, through a rent increase, a spreadsheet, and a used RV that was supposed to be a bridge to somewhere better. Now, I need you to not skip ahead because number 5 is the one that is going to physically change how you see your neighborhood. I'm going to tell you exactly where these people are parking tonight. And I promise you, at least one of those locations is somewhere you were today. Number 5, they were there this morning. You just didn't see them. I want you to think about your morning commute, or your drive to the grocery store, or the street you walk down to get coffee. Now I want to ask you, did you notice the van that's been parked in the same spot for 3 days? The RV on the side street that's always there when you drive past? The pickup truck with the camper shell sitting in the corner of the parking garage? Those are homes. That's what I need you to understand about the geography of this crisis. It is not tucked away somewhere you'll never go. It is right where you already are, in the Walmart lot you stopped at last week, in the industrial park behind the neighborhood with the nice houses, on the street 2 blocks over from your church, your gym, your kids' school. The highest concentrations are in the most expensive housing markets. Los Angeles, where an estimated 15,000 people live in vehicles on any given night. Phoenix, Seattle, Austin, Denver, cities that grew fast, got expensive faster, and left the workers who built them behind. But here's the detail that surprises almost everyone. Rural America is quietly experiencing this crisis too. In small towns across the South, the Midwest, Appalachia, places where wages never recovered from 2008, where the local plant closed, where the housing stock is old and still somehow unaffordable. Families are parking in relatives' driveways and on back roads because the alternative is a shelter 3 counties away. And then there is Walmart. For decades, Walmart has had an unofficial but widely known policy of tolerating overnight parking in their lots. It was originally a convenience for traveling families in RVs. It became, quietly and without anyone planning it, one of the largest unintentional shelters in the country. The night staff at certain Walmart stores know the regulars by first name. They know who's been there a week, who's been there a year, who has kids, who just got laid off. Nobody made this a policy. Nobody designed it as a safety net. It became one because America left a gap, and a parking lot filled it. That is the moment I want you to sit with. The richest country in the history of the world has a Walmart parking lot doing the work that its housing policy refused to do. And what happens inside those parking lots, what an actual day of this life costs a person, is what number 4 is about. I'm going to walk you through 24 hours, hour by hour. And I'm telling you now, it is going to be harder to hear than you expect. Number 4 to 24 hours inside a life nobody chose. Let me take you through a day. Not the Instagram version, the real one. 4:30 a.m. You wake up before the parking lot does, because you have to. You need to drive to a truck stop before your shift starts so you can shower. Truck stop showers run about 8 to 10 minutes on a paid timer. You have learned to do everything. Wash your hair, shave, get completely ready in that window. You have learned to be efficient in ways you never thought about before. 6 a.m. You're at work. You are professional, capable, present. You smile at the right moments. You contribute in meetings. You help a colleague with something they're stuck on. Nobody in this building knows what your address is or isn't. 3:30 p.m. You're back at the vehicle. And now the second job starts. The fresh water tank is running low. Maybe 12 gallons left. Cooking takes 2. You do the math, and you realize you have to choose. Eat a proper hot meal tonight, or save the water for tomorrow morning so you can show up to work clean. You choose clean. You eat cold food again. The waste tank needs emptying. The nearest dump station is 9 miles away and costs money. So you add it to tomorrow's list the way you add everything to lists now, because this life runs entirely on logistics and there is no margin for forgetting anything. The batteries are at 35%. It's 103 degrees outside. If you run the air conditioning to sleep, the batteries die by 2 a.m. and you wake up in suffocating heat. If you don't run it, you don't sleep, and heat illness is not a figure of speech out here. People in parking lots die of heat every summer in this country. Real people, working people. Tonight you compromise. 2 hours of AC, then off. You set 3 alarms to manage it. In January, in a Walmart lot in Ohio, the math reverses completely. The propane heater is the only thing between you and hypothermia. Propane is expensive. Running out at 3 a.m. in winter is not an inconvenience. It is a medical emergency waiting to happen inside the vehicle you call home. And then, the thing that nobody ever thinks about until they're living it. Mail. You don't have an address, which means you cannot receive your driver's license renewal, cannot get insurance documents, cannot open a bank account at institutions that require proof of residence, cannot apply for most assistance programs, cannot enroll your child in school without an address, which means that every few weeks when you move locations, you're technically unenrolling your child and re-enrolling them somewhere else. And each school has different paperwork, different procedures, different teachers who ask different questions. And your kid, who is 7 or 9 or 12, has learned to not answer when people ask where they live. That is the day. That is what it costs. Not once. Every single day, while also holding down a job, while also trying to save, while also trying to believe and help your children believe that this is not forever. It is a full-time operation, run in silence. Invisible to the country, these people are working every day to keep functioning. Now, you might be wondering, how did it come to this? Who let this happen? And the answer is in number 3, and it is going to make you angry. Not because it's complicated, but because once you see it clearly, it's obvious that none of this had to happen. Every step of this crisis was a choice made by people who knew exactly what they were doing. Number 3, the choices that nobody wants to talk about. Here is the sentence I want to start with. This did not happen by accident. Not any of it. The housing crisis that has put over 1 million working Americans into vehicles is not a natural disaster. It is not an act of God. It is the accumulated result of specific decisions made by specific people over several decades. Decisions that consistently, deliberately prioritize the wealth of people who already own property over the basic shelter needs of people who didn't. Let me show you the timeline. Starting in the late 1970s, housing in America began its transformation from a basic human need into an investment asset, something to profit from, speculate on, leverage. City by city, zoning laws locked enormous swaths of land into single-family use. making it illegal to build the dense, affordable housing that workers actually need near the places where workers actually work. Federal funding for public housing was cut, then cut again. At the same time, same years, same era, wages for workers without college degrees stopped growing in real terms. Unions collapsed. Benefits eroded. The cost of healthcare, childcare, food, and transportation kept climbing while the floor under workers held still. That was the pressure that built for 40 years. Then 2020 hit. The pandemic broke supply chains and pushed millions out of stable work. Eviction moratoriums gave people a brief lifeline, but when they expired, the displacement wave was massive. Inflation hit a 40-year high. The Federal Reserve responded by raising interest rates sharply, which froze the housing market solid. Homeowners locked into 3% mortgages wouldn't sell into a 7% market. Inventory vanished, and whatever remained became unaffordable for anyone who needed to borrow to buy. For the bottom half of American wage earners, the people doing the nursing, the driving, the building, the serving, the floor gave out. Not because of anything they did, because of everything that was done around them, above them, and to them by a system that had been quietly choosing sides for decades. And here is the part that should make you stop and rewind. These people can't even be officially counted. The government's definition of homelessness largely excludes people living in vehicles, which means they don't show up in the data. They don't get counted in the reports. They don't trigger the funding mechanisms. They are, in the eyes of the system, invisible, even as they drive to work, clock in, and keep the country running. Which brings us to number 2. And this is the one that genuinely enrages me every time I think about it. Because it's not just that the system failed these people. It's what the system does to them when they try to get out. Stay with me, because what I'm about to tell you is something that most Americans simply do not know is happening in their own cities right now. Number 2, what happens when they try to escape? Most people would assume that if you're a working American, living in a vehicle, doing your best, at some point the country catches you. A social worker finds you. A program helps you. Some version of the safety net does what safety nets are supposed to do. Here is what actually happens. In hundreds of cities across the United States, local governments have passed laws that make it illegal to sleep in a vehicle on a public street. Let me say that again because I want it to land properly. You can be fined, towed, arrested for sleeping in your own vehicle, a vehicle you legally own that you paid for, parked on a public road in a country whose taxes you pay every year. These laws were not written to move people into housing. They don't come with a plan, a resource, a next step. They're written to move people out of sight, to protect nearby property values, to make an uncomfortable truth invisible so that the people in the nice houses nearby don't have to see it. The result is a cycle so exhausting it breaks people. A family finds a workable spot. They learn the rhythms of the block, where it's safe when it keep quiet. Then comes the knock, parking enforcement or police, and they're told to move. So they move. They find another spot. They get moved again and again. Every move costs fuel. Every move costs time. Every move costs whatever thin thread of stability they had managed to hold on to. And when they go looking for help, homeless shelters, rental assistance, Section 8 vouchers, they hit a wall that sounds like a bad joke, but is completely real. Most programs require a fixed address to apply. You need an address to get housing assistance. If you had an address, you wouldn't need housing assistance. A handful of cities, Los Angeles, Denver, Portland, have started safe parking programs, legal designated areas where people can park, access bathrooms and water, and connect with housing services. These programs work. Participants transition into permanent housing at significantly higher rates than those left without any support. But they're underfunded. They cover a fraction of the need. In the vast majority of American cities, they do not exist at all. The system does not have a real plan for these people. And number 1, the final truth in this countdown is the one that explains why that should not just make you sad about the people in those parking lots. It should make you genuinely worried about yourself. Because what I'm about to tell you in number 1 is something the people managing this country are very much hoping you don't connect to your own life. Don't go anywhere. Number 1. The truth they're hoping you don't connect to yourself. All right, we've made it to number 1. And I need you to actually hear this. Not just listen, but hear it. This crisis is not stabilizing. It is not leveling off. It is accelerating. And the people it is coming for next are not at the bottom of the income ladder. They are in the middle. They are people who look, on paper, like they're fine. Here's the uncomfortable truth. The fastest growing group of Americans moving into vehicles are people who were previously middle class. People with degrees. People with careers, 401ks and 5-year plans, who hit 1 or 2 unexpected shocks and discovered that the floor they thought was solid was actually suspended in midair. 1 medical emergency. 1 layoff. 1 divorce. 1 landlord converting to condos. 1 car repair that drains everything. That's the distance, for tens of millions of Americans, between where they are right now and a parking lot. Look at the actual numbers. The federal minimum wage is $7.25 an hour. It has not been raised since 2009. That is the longest freeze in the entire history of the minimum wage. Someone working full-time at that rate takes home roughly $15,000 a year. The average 1-bedroom apartment in America now costs more than $20,000 a year to rent. $15,000 in, $20,000 out, before food, before health care, before transportation, before anything. There is no budget in the world that solves that equation. And median rent across the United States has more than doubled since 2000, adjusted for inflation. Wages for the bottom half of workers have not kept pace. Not even close. The people sleeping in parking lots tonight did not fail this country. This country failed them. They followed every rule, showed up, paid in, did everything a functioning society promises will be enough. It wasn't. Not because they lacked discipline or drive or ambition, because the ground shifted underneath them while they were standing on it, and the people with the power to stabilize it chose not to. And here's the question I want to leave burning in your mind as this video ends. If the rules of this country no longer guarantee shelter to the people who follow them, who exactly are those rules protecting? Let me ask you one question before you go. And I'm not asking it rhetorically. I want your real answer in the comments below. If your rent went up $600 starting next month, not hypothetically, not someday, but 30 days from now, what is your actual plan? Not the plan you hope you'd have. The one you actually have right now, today, with what's in your account and what's in your life. Because I asked that question to people while making this video. People with jobs, people with savings accounts, people who are, by all appearances, doing fine. And the number who paused, who said, honestly, I don't know. I genuinely don't know what I would do, was not a small number. That pause is the story. That pause is the distance between the people watching this video and the people living inside it. So drop your answer right now. Tell me, do you have a plan? Do you think this could happen to someone you know? And what would it take? What would actually have to change for this country to keep its promise to working people? Because the people in those parking lots are waiting for that conversation to happen. They've been waiting for a long time. Share this with one person who needs to see it. Post it. Send it. Put in a group chat. And if you're watching this from inside a vehicle right now, if this is your reality tonight, I need you to hear this. You are not invisible to me. You are not a failure. You are what happens when a country breaks its word to the people holding it together. The shame is not yours to carry. See you in the next one.